Come on, baby. Did we do it? Let's go! We did it. Easy or higher? Well, come on, baby. We did it better than that. Complete the game on medium or higher. Yeah, give me that third one. Complete the game on hard difficulty. Let's go. All right, we did it. Let's talk about the ups and downs of A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead, shall we? Let me turn this down just a bit. All right, yeah, so let's talk about this. I've got some thoughts. Going into this, I was expecting one of two things. Something like an Outlast kind of a thing where there's no combat, but a lot of like battery management and that kind of thing. Or something more like Alien Isolation where you have some weapons and some combat, but it's minimal and the big bad creature doesn't really respond to it much. But it ended up being more like the former because there aren't any other things to fight in this game. It's just the creatures, right? So that's I guess that's the mythos of this game, is like there's these creatures. And it's not like there's like also other types of creatures. It's just these creatures, and you can't shoot these things, right? So I like games like Outlast. In fact, I played Outlast and Outlast 2 fairly recently. I played one last year and I played 2 at the beginning of this year. And I enjoyed both of them quite a bit. It's not my favorite kind of survival horror. I prefer combat. Like, that gets me going better. I think if they had put more combat in this, it probably would have been a mistake. But that's where I'm starting from. That being said, I think this game does a particularly good job of keeping it interesting, because that kind of thing where you're just managing your batteries and your, you know, whatever, those kinds of your survival supplies, not weapons, not health or ammo, right? Other kinds of stuff can get old pretty fast. The Outlast series does a good job with it, but most imitators don't. It gets old pretty quickly. This game, you'd think it's just one shtick, right? You just have to be quiet. So you'd think it would get old pretty quick. They actually do a pretty good job of keeping it fresh by changing the variables around as the game goes on. At the beginning, yeah, it's just as simple as, you know, don't make too much noise. But later on, there's certain puzzle mechanics that you have to deal with that make a certain amount of noise, and you have to measure that against whether you want to take the quick route or the quick route or the longer, safer route. There's a lot of that, a lot of multiple routes, and there's things that you can use that mask your sound, and things that dampen sound, and things that, you know, it actually does a pretty good job of, and there's different ways that the monsters can detect you via sound. I won't go too much into it because I don't want to spoil it, but they actually do a pretty good job, and it all kind of culminates at the end with this final couple of areas that are hard and really force you to use every piece of knowledge that you've gained up to that point in order to proceed. I really liked that. I thought that was really good. Another thing that I really liked is I almost didn't use it because there's a mic option where you can turn the mic on your PlayStation on, and if you make enough noise, the monsters will detect you. I almost didn't use that because I talked during these videos, so I was silent. I decided to turn it on, so I was silent during a lot of this playthrough, and it ended up being fine. And because I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, that extra element. I've never played a game like that before. I've heard that they existed, but I've never played a game like that before. And I really, really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was an interesting extra element. You know, I would lean back and my chair would creak or make a noise like that or something. And it was like, oh shit, well, we just died, you know, and we were playing on hard. So it didn't take much sound in game or in the real world to set it off. It did not take much. So I thought that was really cool. I've never played a game like that. I really liked it. The story I thought was good. I don't know that it didn't blow me away, the story itself. It was pretty, you know, you think about what a story would be like for this game. It pretty much was that. There weren't a lot of crazy twists and turns, really. They had a couple of little plot twists that were interesting when it comes to the characters, but and they were good. Like I said, it was good. It just, there was nothing really that blew me away with the story. It's the kind of story that you would expect for a game like this. As far as critiques go, I do have a couple. I will say that the probably my biggest problem is I was picturing, once I got into the game, I was picturing that it would work something like Alien Isolation, where there's always this creature around, and if you make enough noise, it'll bring him closer, and if you make more noise after that, it'll alert him to your presence. But he's always there. He's always out, rendered in the world, in-game somewhere, walking around, like the alien in Alien Isolation. It doesn't work like that most of the time. There are some planned areas, several planned areas where that is the case, but during those times, you can pretty much always see where they are. It's not like it's not like there's that dread of not knowing where they are. In those areas where it's planned that you have to walk around it and stuff, you see it. You can see where it is. You kind of need to see it in order to be able to. Well, I don't know if that's true, actually. I think it would have been better if there were some areas where you couldn't see, like if you're in a building or something, you don't know where it is. That never really happened, though. Every other time other than those planned times, you can't see the monster, but you can tell that the monster is not actually rendered anywhere in the real world. It works it's very mathematical, the way that it works. If you make a certain amount of noise, it'll trigger this gong sound effect. If you make another noise that loud or louder before a certain amount of time passes, a good 5 to 10 seconds, then it'll make a violin screech sound, which means it's level 2 alertness. And then if you make another loud noise, as loud or louder, within the next 5 or 10 seconds after that, then you're dead. And at that point, there's just a cutscene that plays where suddenly the monster is there and you die. So it's not like you have to. There are some set times where you have to tiptoe around the monsters or whatever, but you can see them. There's never that dread like you have in Alien Isolation of where is the creature? It could be behind me at any moment. Other than some planned, curated set pieces that work that way, it doesn't usually work that way. You're just in the world, and you just can't make a certain amount of noise. It doesn't matter where the creature is. There's not that dread of knowing it could be very close or it could be far away. It doesn't matter where it is. It's nowhere. You just can't make noise. So I thought that was a little formulaic. It was a little disappointing because it wasn't as scary as just knowing that it's there somewhere. And I could just, even if I don't make too much noise, if I just make one noise one time and the monster's close enough, then I don't have to do the 3-strike thing because it's close enough to hear me the first time. You know, there was with something like Alien Isolation, that AI is really smart. There's a lot of variability, you know. With this, there's no variability, really. You make 3 sounds. Even in the curated parts where you can see the creature, it's a 3-strike rule. You have a 3-strike rule in this game all the time, no matter what. The only exception to that is if you physically run into it or it jumps onto you, or, like not knowing you're there or something. Then, if you touch it, you're dead. But outside of that, 3-strike rule. And that was kind of lame. But it still was scary because, you know, it's hard to tell sometimes what's going to make a lot of noise and what's not. Like when you're walking through puddles, you're walking over broken glass, you're walking over wood and metal surfaces, and it's just hard to say because there are a lot of variables in play. But at the end of the day, it's just a 3-strike rule. On top of that, I thought, so there's a flashlight mechanic in this game, and I never touched it. I touched it a couple times right at the end of the game, but it's not really dark enough to need, and I had the brightness settings set correctly. It took me a while to get there, but I did get them to where they're set correctly. And I just never needed the flashlight. I just never needed it. So it's just, you're getting batteries, and I was just full every time. The problem is, it's not just the brightness. There's batteries, there's flares, and then you have this other flashlight that you can charge later in the game. And all of it's about light, but it takes up a hand to use, and it takes up the same hand that you have a tool that will measure decibel level with. That is more important than any amount of light ever. I never needed light. I could just walk mostly in the dark most of the time because I didn't want that decibel thing to leave my hands. I wanted to look at it the whole time. So if I don't know if they could put it in the other hand, maybe, because the other hand you have for throwables like flares, bricks, bottles, things like that. That one didn't get as much use, although it did come in handy quite a bit. But so maybe it's as simple as just switching the flashlight to the other hand or switching the light stuff to the other hand. But I just didn't want it in my hands because not only are you using that decibel thing, but you're also like picking up things and moving them, and you're having to do it very delicately and very quietly, picking up things and moving them, and it's just like it's too cumbersome. It's like I just don't want anything in those things in my hands. The decibel thing is worth it, and everything else just wasn't worth it. So I just ignored that mechanic entirely. So they either needed to make it more necessary or just do away with it or something. It just never really came up. So that was a little bit of a complaint. It didn't really have a lot of bugs or glitches. There maybe were a couple little ones where like the thing would like walk through a wall that it wasn't supposed to or something. That happened maybe once or twice, but the game was actually pretty well put together. So I was impressed by that. The graphics are serviceable. They're fine. They're B- graphics. They're fine. For this company that made the Remothered series, which I haven't played, but I've seen trailers of and stuff, it's a big improvement because their games before didn't look so hot. There's another thing too. It's very clear. I don't know where anything about this developer really, but it's very clear that they're not from an English-speaking country because a lot of the text was poorly translated. The grammar was all over the place. Spelling was fine, but the grammar was all over the place. It just didn't make a lot of. It just didn't read very well, so they probably should have had somebody who's native English speaking proofread it for grammar. It was a little distracting at times. Not a big deal, but it was a little bit distracting. Other than that, it was very scary. It was very scary. It wasn't a lot of jump scares except when you made too much noise and then the violin screech or whatever. That did get me all the time, but beyond that, it was just very tense, and they did a good job of building tense environments and building tension within those environments. That was all very good. I liked that. Overall, I'd say it was, I mean, I've never played a game quite like this. So, you know, even though it's not exactly my favorite genre, because I'm more of a traditional Resident Evil style horror fan, I really enjoyed this experience because I've never played a game with like the mic and, you know, it's just not really like anything I've played before. So overall, I did really enjoy it. As far as where I'm going to rank it, I don't know. I think I liked it about as much as the Outlast games. It scratched a very similar itch, although some of the mechanics are very different. But it's that kind of game. So if you liked those games, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's up there. So I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's around there. All right, we did it. I really enjoyed that game. Last couple orders of business. The bottom center of the screen says that we've beaten 91 games in 2024 and 538 since we started doing this in 2020. I don't know where the fuck those numbers came from because that's not right. We've now beaten 92 games in 2024 and 539 since we started doing this. Let's go. All right. Last order of business. Quiet Place. It's been a blast, but we are now going to delete you from our console and never play you again. Bye. Appreciate ya. Thank ya.